The Plaquemines Parish Council as sole governing authority of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District is called to order at 3:02 PM. Roll call. Let the record reflect that we have 8 commissioners present. Commissioner Konovich is absent today. All rise, Commissioner Schultz for the prayer and Commissioner McCarty for the pledge.
Let's pray. We take this moment to acknowledge Almighty God and thank Him for our bountiful blessings, especially for the parish's natural resources. We give thanks to God for our brave and courageous men and women in our military who daily risk their lives to protect our precious freedom, and we pray for our world leaders to know how to obtain world peace. We pray that this government body, comprised of both council and administration, will always serve our parish with honesty, humility, and equality to all. And as this government body gathers here today, we pray for the wisdom to know right from wrong and the courage to do that which is right. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everyone on this precursor to Memorial Day weekend. Big weekend for our country, and keep all of our veterans and active duty reserve people all in your prayers, that they keep things safe for us. A reminder, if you have a cell phone, please turn it off. And I'd like to also welcome an old face with a mask. I don't know if that mask is there because he's ugly or he's worried about us giving him COVID, but former council member and friend John Bartholomew. Nice to see you, John. You're welcome. You're welcome. Before we start, I would like to just let everyone know there'll be some deferrals and withdrawals today. So go to your agenda. We're going to defer item 6B, item 6D. We're going to withdraw item F, item G, and item H.
Item 2, executive session, there are none. 3, status report by the Executive Port Director.
You're up.
All right, good afternoon, council members. It's been a busy couple of weeks. We had a very successful day in Baton Rouge. Our parish day there was my first time, and I found it to be, a great event for the port to get together, not only with the council members, but with our legislators and work together to talk about and celebrate the parish. I'd like to also just give a quick update on the 2 Senate bills that are out there. The one from Senator McMath that's focused on creating a strategy for the 5 deep water ports and creating a commission that would sit adjacent to the Commissioner of Multimodal. And there would be a board under that commission, and there will be 1 seat for one of the deep water ports, which we hope that we would be able to participate on that seat. But we have confidence in Senator McMath that the intent is right to create a vehicle where all of the ports work together to build a statewide strategy, and we look forward to working with our legislators to make that happen. We also have Senator Connick's bill that focuses on migrating all of the ports' master plans together for a statewide master plan, and there will be a board that will consist of all of the deep water ports, and we are going to be part of that board as well. So again, starting next year, we will be working closely with our legislators to work on combining what we're doing with our master plan with the rest of the ports in the state. Project updates, it's, been very busy. The Piano Keys, we continue to make progress. We're introducing 2 more purchases today. That leaves, with the 2, that leaves 10 parcels remaining. 2 of them are in active negotiations, and we're working on the other 6. The market analysis is well underway. Mr. Bridges made it out. Spent a few days here with us with the Bridges Group, really just collecting data and looking closely at what direction we're headed in, and we will be having weekly meetings working on our market analysis, and our goal is to have that done within 90 to 120 days. We're on target with joint parish meetings with Jefferson Parish. We're scheduled to meet with Jefferson Parish next Friday, the 2nd, which the Union Pacific will be in that meeting as well as other stakeholders, and that is to focus, on what we need to be doing for the Peters Road bypass, for the rail bypass. We also have a meeting scheduled with the Corps of Engineers with Colonel Jones on the 5th, and we have a variety of different projects going on within the port region right now, where it is important for us to go in and for me to meet Colonel Jones myself, but also put our projects on the table in front of the Colonel, so that to give him a high level view of the great projects that we're working on, projects that are definitely driving record-making growth here in the parish. And we're going to have our 2nd port construction meeting with our construction stakeholders on the 7th. And this meeting is solely focused on coordinating between all of the different construction companies to ensure that that we're focused on public safety and that we're setting priorities around the different activities that are going on as it relates to keeping these projects moving. And speaking of those construction projects, we're estimating right now that we have between 3,000 and 3,500 construction workers working on the port-related projects in the parish today. That could get as high as 9,000 by the end of next year. The port has been meeting with the parish, with Mr. Hinckley, and we are discussing the idea of the port bringing in a project engineer under the Lanier contract, the Lanier engineering contract, to kind of spearhead an effort to make sure that we're putting the right engineering focus on what we're trying to do in terms of supporting the construction growth, which will mean additional construction workers will be coming here to the parish. And I don't know if Mr. Hinckley is in the room, but he may want to make a comment about it after I finish my comments here. But I feel very good that we've really rolled up our sleeves, and we're looking at all of the issues, and we're working closely to make sure that we're doing everything that we can do to facilitate bringing the construction workers to the parish, which will drive a higher economic impact here, to the parish. Moving on to the ferries, we continue to evaluate what the next steps will be. I can tell you, we have made a lot of progress. We've had discussions with Infinity Engineering, and we continue evaluating, what that new direction should look like. So we should have, a plan on what direction we're going to go in terms of recommending to the board here within the next 30 days. You mentioned we're going to defer item B, the SP contract. We were actually prepared to come in and actually vote on that. We are very close to having that finalized. We had some discussions this week with the attorneys, and, we have a couple of small items that we felt that it was important that we bring some clarity around. And we've created a digest document for the council to make it very clear on all of the terms of the agreement, including what an exit pathway would look like. And so we've shared the draft, Mr. Chairman, with yourself. We have some clarification that we want to add to that, and I'm confident that by next week we'll have some clarity around it. On the human resources side, we continue to be challenged with the talent war that we're in. I mean, we lost another ferry resource. We will be losing. We actually received the resignation this week. And, we continue working diligently to come up with some solutions to create a program where we can sustain the talent that we have on board, not only attract new talent. We've been involved in interviewing directors of communication. We have some very qualified candidates, and Melissa and myself and Christy will be sitting down next week, and after we get a vote on approval to move forward to bring that director of communication on board. We've also had some very good conversations or interviews with legal secretaries. And one thing that I will note is, we continue to bump up on whether or not our salaries are where they need to be. So we've had a couple of individuals that, their desire was to be a little above where we are today. So that just continues to be a challenge for us, and we'll continue to work on making sure that, we're making ourselves competitive with the surrounding markets. And that concludes my report.
As is a rule of the council, we do allow comments. And this also is a rule for the government. So, President Hinckley, would you like to comment on the issues that, I guess you do? Unless you're coming up here just to stretch your legs, I don't know. All right. Name and address, please.
112 Liberty Street, Bellchase, Plaquemines Parish. No, like Charles said, we've been meeting regarding the RV spots that are needed in the parish. I think they've identified 2,100 spots that are needed for the future development of the parish. May it be the diversion, the on-site, they're increasing their business. You got the Venture Global there. What I've got, we're comprising a list right now. We're coming up with, we're developing a report on the spots that we have now that are either in action or in the process of becoming parks. So, because as you drive up and down, like Mr. LaFrance and I yesterday, when you go through Port Sulphur and areas, there's still quite a few spots that are available. So we want to create the right amount of spots. We don't want to overdo it. I mean, it's phenomenal now. It's kind of overwhelming that the spots that there are in Plaquemines Parish at this moment, but we're going to work on it. And I like the idea what Charles says about having that point man right there, because we have our meetings and then we give ourselves tasks when we leave that meeting, and it's Charles and I. And look, and my day is it's quite long and it's not overwhelming, but that's just one more task that's given to us and everything like that. So I think that's an excellent idea, so that gives Charles and I a point person to be able to go reach out and discuss the issues and the spots with you guys and Madam, as well as dealing with the permit department with the parish and also the community. And we've identified some areas in the Belle Chase area. There's some areas in the Port Sulphur area. So there's going to be a whole lot of conversation about that in the future there. So, okay.
Thank you, sir. Just to add to some of the stuff you said, I want the board to know that during the market analysis, everyone will be kept informed so we can get input from each of you as to how you perceive the present market in the port and the future market, and that'll also come in with the economic analysis. It's not going to be just on the port staff. Everyone here will have an opportunity to participate if you wish. And it also goes with the meetings that you're having. Some of these meetings are actually impacting certain districts. The Corps of Engineers meetings with the drainage canal and things like that. So the board members who are particularly impacted by that, we hope that you can participate in those things. And Charles, with the salaries we discussed on the council side, our government employees working with President Hinckley to try to help on that end too. I know we're looking, maybe when the rollover comes in, we can see something we can do with through civil service to help. So hopefully we can coordinate that with some of the things we're asking on our end, because I know particularly with the ferry situation, we are just struggling to keep captains going. I mean, people are leaving to go to higher paying jobs. So I know it's a struggle. With that, I'll ask in the audience if you do have any comments to make. And once the comments are made, if there are any questions, we'll try to answer that once the board is open to the board for discussion.
Sean L. Bartholomew Jr., 15425 Highway 15, Braithwaite, Louisiana. I'm very much concerned about the ferry situation, and that we're in the process of getting some ideas to validate what is important, the most important factor of organizing what's going to happen to the ferry situation in Plaquemines Parish. Well, by nature, we always had two ferries, always. And most of the monies, all the money at some point in time was sponsored by the state legislators through what they call the Road Royalty Fund, which played out and was placed into the general fund operation. So, but and because of the infinite wisdom, we didn't see to maintain it, to keep it in that posture. But my main concern today is to bring about the aware of the need for two ferries. Just like the population exists for support on the revenue side of the trailers, the camper trailers. There's no greater support for that on the East Bank. We got plenty of room over here. That's why you need to run this ferry have the two ferries to support the port. Because you can't have all of it on the West Bank. You just don't have enough room. And the infrastructure problem is crazy. It's crazy, real crazy. So I think in the future, whatever you do, that you have people involved in the process who's really impacted by eliminating ferries to one. And if you look at the cost of one ferry compared to two ferries, it's not that much difference in operation for 24 hours. It's not that much cost in operation if you look at it that way. But when you do have the two ferries, you're meeting a need of people. And that's the first objective of government, is to provide the needs of the people without no reservation or equivocation whatsoever. It needs to be done. And whatever has to be done by any means necessary, we do that as a government, because that's what we're about. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McConnelly. Well, are any other, we'll open up to the board in a minute, Commissioner. Any other audience comments?
Clarence Brock, 156 Crossover Land, Phoenix, Louisiana, Plaquemine Parish. My comment is on the mobile homes. I have a mobile home that's too small to be considered as a trailer and too big is considered as a camper. Do we have rules that we need to go by that say what is a trailer and what is a camper? Because I got a building I want to rent out to a guy wanted to, or rent the trailer out to work at the plant. And I told him that the parish saying it's too big for a camper. It's still on wheels, still could be moved if we have to. But there's a special reason or rule that by size?
Clarence, thank you, but I would touch base with Mr. Hinckley, because that's a kind of a permit type thing instead of a port issue, and I'm sure they can come up with some kind of resolution for something that's existing.
That's a good answer. Thank you.
QN or board members QN, if you wish to speak. Commissioner Jurisic.
Yes, Charles, you mentioned the McMath and Connick bills, your Senate bills. You seem to feel like they're moving forward. Looks like they may wind up actually making it all the way through. And sounds like what you said that you almost kind of favorable with them, or
Well,
what's the process? I know
yeah, so-
they're moving along. Are they fast tracking? Or did they pick up steam?
Yeah, thank you for the question, and let me be very clear. I'm not in favor of either one. But, I mean, it is what it is, and I've been told directly by Senator Connick and Senator McMath that the bills are going to happen. And, we're monitoring them very closely. We're in discussions with Cornerstone on a daily basis now. We sent some information in today to make sure that they made some changes to how our membership on the Connick's board would look. But the train is coming. So we know it's coming. We've been told it's coming. And we're preparing ourselves, to participate and to make sure that we at least try to make the best of the situation.
All right, thank you for that. Also, I recently became aware that Infinity Engineering did some work in the Empire Boat Harbor. Building a new harbor, building the new piers and everything. And I was very disappointed to find out that they engineered a very poor design. And they signed off on it. Apparently, they signed off on it. So I have some big concerns about Infinity, with this ferry ramp. We have to definitely be sure that they are held accountable for what we're hiring them for, because what I've seen at the Empire Boat Harbor, these slips will not be able to harbor any boats during a hurricane because these pilings were poorly driven. The whole structures are, they're gonna come down. And I think, we definitely need to hold their feet to the fire. If they come back and they need to monitor and be sure before they sign off that if anything they engineer or design, that it gets built properly, because I don't wanna see what happened in Empire, because these piers are really useless. And that's a shame that when they signed off on them, that means, we paid for them. And that's, I don't want to see that happen again, because that's a waste of funds.
Well, thank you, and I will make contact with Infinity this evening, and we have a meeting at the port's office on Tuesday morning and I'll follow up on this and follow up with you. And if you'd like to come, and join us, you're more than welcome to do so.
Yeah, I would recommend that you do that, Mitch, even if it's by phone.
Yeah.
Because they need to hear firsthand from someone who has seen what they've done and see what their side of the story is. Yeah.
Okay.
Make that happen, Charles. I think that's good. Commissioner Edwards.
Mitch asked my first question. I was concerned about this consolidated port, and so you satisfied me saying that you're not in favor, but the train and move. What I'm confused about, Charles, when you made the statement about 3,000 construction work that proposed, sound like you're saying we got 3,000 people in construction work now. That's not what you meant. That's what would happen.
No, we have over 3,000 construction workers in the parish today between Venture Global,
Oh, between them, okay.
Fieldway with the levee,
Okay.
on-site concrete, what they're doing.
Okay, that makes sense to me. The other question, I want to go back to, because I wanted to ask the question that Mr. Brock asked, and that is about these RVs. Because I was concerned about the requirements we put in on people with elevation and people with trailers, and then seem like we're making a special provision for business people to have trailers. So the issue that Mr. Brock, well, as soon as I heard, I said, wait a minute, we got a lot of residents who probably saying, well, if RV's allowed, then I'll get me an RV. So I'm just wondering, we open this up just for business people, so that residents saying, well, look, since I can't elevate my house, then I'll get me an RV like the business people have. Or we opening it up for residents to do the same thing, or we just doing preferential treatment for business? I'm just trying to understand that.
Yeah, I mean, good questions, and let me clarify the first on the bills, right? This is not a port consolidation bill. These two bills are about creating a statewide port strategy and a statewide port master plan. So it's not consolidation, and there is a big difference in that. Two, on the RV parks, the reason that we're working on bringing in a engineering resource to spearhead this is to make sure that we get it right. But we really have to pick our poison here. If we get to 9,000, 10,000 construction workers by the end of next year, it will be too much for Highway 23. So as a port authority, it's important that we get in front of this and try to figure out how do we mitigate the need for the construction workers. The alternative is we cancel some of these projects and not grow. That's the alternative. So what we're really looking at trying to do is create a solution where we can, make accommodations for the growth for these companies, and accommodations that make sense, and that there's a exit strategy on the back end, so that we're not just leaving some open pad somewhere when all of this work is done. But if we want to grow, if we want to finish Venture Global, finish the back levee, the diversion is coming. The state they're starting that right now as we speak. If we want to do the container terminal, and if we want to do the rail extension, there's going to be upwards of 9,000 construction worker demand. And the only way that to really accommodate that is to try to create some housing accommodations south of the port and north of the port that takes the congestion off of Highway 23 going through Belle Chase.
The only thing I'm suggesting that we do that, we got to put some language in it and make the public understand this is temporarily, some kind of way can understand. Because I can see the concern that Mr. Brox have, other people have that same project here, rather than live here, they can't have trailer, but we do an RV. So I hope that the language is there in a way to saying this is temporarily, putting a condition and have to be renewed, and so the public can understand why we're really doing that, so it don't look like we're doing preferential treatment for business and not considering the
Yeah,
residents.
let me say that the rules are for everyone, business, residential, it's the same, and we can get with permits, Tyrone, and show, they can tell you, explain how with an RV, how it applies to the FEMA flood elevation and how it has to be moved after a certain time, things like that. So there are rules in place for the RVs and existing structures and how all that plays in. So we'll work with that, but get with Amitra, and she can really clue you in better than I can. Mr. Newsom.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Question. So I think it's a great idea to bring the engineering folks about the workers. Is that going to be somebody we're going to do with a current company that we have on staff, not on staff, but on payroll, or will we have to appropriate some money to get somebody?
Yeah,
Or do those folks have expertise to do that?
myself and Mr. Hinckley discussed this last week with Mr. Champagne, and we felt that it was important to have someone with some project management background to get
No
in
doubt.
front of this. So the tool that we have in our toolbox at the port today is the professional services agreements with Infinity Engineering and with Lanier and Associates. So I've had discussions with Lanier. They are assessing whether or not they have a dedicated resource that they can put towards this. So right now, we're in the discussion phases, but the thought right now is to use Lanier and a resource from Lanier, but we have not made a decision. And when we do, we will make sure that this council knows what direction we want to go in. We just want to kind of introduce it as,
Thank you.
what direction we're moving in.
I'll speak not for the board, but myself. Growth is key in Plaquemines Parish. The port is our economic engine, as we all know. If we don't have that, we're going to be in serious trouble for economics. So we have to support that, and we have to move forward, and we got to see for the future. Now, I'm not for housing anybody for the diversion, so I'm not for anybody for the diversion. They let them be on their own. Sleep in a tent. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
There are no other comments. Director, I think that some of what was said in regards to the availability of space on the East Bank is very important, just as long as we can get them back and forth across the river. Commissioner Edwards is right. The vast amount of land that's available, if possible, yeah, we could do some housing on the East Bank as long as we can get them back and forth. To me, that's going to be the
Yes.
problem. Yeah.
And if I can comment, I think Mr. Bartholomew made a very good point, and I just want to make sure that I'm clear that from myself and the port executive staff, we are looking at the fiscal responsibility and the social responsibility. So we're weighing that, and we spent the time in the community on the East Bank, down in Port Sulphur and in Belle Chase, and we have a lot of notes on what the community not only wants, but what the community needs. So we're factoring all of that in, and we do believe that the ferry is a vital resource. The system is a vital resource, and we have 2 ferry grant programs in our sites right now that we have a meeting on next week, and we will be moving forward with those 2 grants and trying to find those additional resources to offset our costs.
And I attest to that being a fact that we are taking the comments very seriously. And we're not only looking at the economics, we are looking at the social aspect and trying to make it all work before we even put a suggested report out. So we can move to the next item.
4, bids and advertisements, there are none. 5, introduction of ordinances and resolutions.
The following are all for Commissioner Champagne. An ordinance authorizing Charles Tillotson, Executive Director of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, to purchase land owned by Edgard Guillermo Lumbreras, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance authorizing Charles Tillotson, Executive Director of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, to purchase land owned by Michelle C. Posey and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution authorizing Charles Tillotson, Executive Director of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, to enter into a per task order agreement identified as Task Order Number 2 for project management services with respect to the Sustainability Partners contract with Infinity Engineering on an as-needed per task order basis as directed by the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District Executive Director and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution authorizing Charles Tillotson, Executive Director of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, to authorize Kyle and Associates LLC to advertise for public bid for improvements to the Alliance Water Booster Station and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution authorizing the Port Director, Charles D. Tillotson, for and on behalf of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, to name and accept the proposal of the Plaquemines Gazette as the official journal for the Plaquemines Parish Council as the sole governing authority of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. That's it.
6, ordinances and resolutions on second reading and final passage. 6A, ordinances and public hearings pursuant to Article 6, Section 601E of the Plaquemines Parish Charter. 6B is deferred. 6C, an ordinance to amend the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District manpower structure to create and fund the unclassified position of Port Public Information Officer and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Gui, and this has a substitute.
Yes, read the substitute, please. Does everyone have the substitute? If you don't, let me know.
What item is that?
That's C, 6C. You have an extra copy of the substitute? Okay, we got it. Go ahead.
All throughout the ordinance, Port Public Information Officer has been changed to Director of Communications. The first whereas has been completely removed, and a new one has been inserted that reads as follows. Whereas, empowered by LRS 341352, the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, ... may contract with and employ attorneys, clerks, engineers, superintendents, and such other employees and agents, and fix their compensation and term of employment as may be necessary to carry out the purposes of their authority. The next whereas has been removed and inserted with, whereas the council is the sole governing authority of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District has determined that in order to carry out the purposes of advancing the port development, public information, and community outreach in and around Plaquemines Parish, it is necessary to create the position of Director of Communications and to hire a full-time employee to fill that position. In the following whereas, not only the Director of Communications has been inserted instead of Public Information Officer, but they have also increased the salary from $85,000 to $90,000 per year. And another whereas has been added after that. Whereas the Port and the Director of Communications will enter into a mutually agreed upon employment contract. In Section 1, the language the Civil Service Commission to create a classified position of Port Public Information Officer has been removed, and it reads, the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District does hereby request to create the unclassified position of a Director of Communications. In Section 2, is once again Public Information Officer removed and Director of Communications has been inserted in the first sentence. And at the end of the original paragraph, subject to all civil service rules and regulations has been removed. And that's all.
Okay, I'd like to ask for a second, and I'll explain this.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Newsom. This has been on the table for 2 weeks, and I had some problems with it, and so we deferred, and we had some additional research done. My problem I had with it was not the need, it was not the definition, because the need is definitely there. The problem I had was we have an unclassified position, and we were running it through civil service. And I felt that something wasn't right about that. So we did some further research, and we found that the statute that creates the Plaquemines, Port Harbor, and Terminal District actually has the language on how to do this. And so what we did, we took out everything that had to do with civil service because it wasn't pertinent, and we added the language as per the statute that created the Port Harbor and Terminal District. And then, of course, the name change was done because we felt the name Director of Communications was more appropriate. So I'll offer with that. We've got the second. I'd like, if there's anything from the port staff that you'd like to add. I did send out my comments in writing to all of the commissioners stating why I felt this was so important and stated my reasons. So if you have anything to add, it's up to you.
Yes, thank you. And I mean, this is a very exciting time for Plaquemines Port. I mean, the growth that we're experiencing here in this port is exceeds all other ports in the state of Louisiana. I mean, we're talking about being up to 9,000 construction workers. We're talking about, expanding into liquefied natural gas, compressed natural gas, containers, cementitious products. I forecast that in the next, 4 to 5 years, we're going to go from 47 million tons to over 80 million tons a year, which is it's huge. It's a huge impact, and there's going to be a huge impact on the community, an economic impact, and we think that it is essential that we put a director of communication in place to help us, put this narrative out there to the community, to the state, to the parish, and around the world. And we increased the salary because we are looking for someone that can interface, with any media platform that's out there. So we appreciate your support, and thank you.
Yeah, I agree. It's the world, Washington, Baton Rouge, Plaquemines, and particularly the board. We've had some things slip through the cracks because we haven't had the manpower with all the projects we have going. And we've had comments from the board about how we didn't understand this. We didn't have enough time to work on this. And I feel now that a director of communications would be the liaison to make that happen. And we as a board will be more informed in addition to the public and right up the line. Commissioner Schultz. Yep. Thank you so much. The floor is open for public comment. And again, if you do ask a question, we as a board will address that question when we take the floor. Any public comment? Commissioner Schultz.
So yes, overall, I'm in favor of this position. However, when we have over 80% is completely different from what was originally introduced and sent out to the public is my problem. We're changing the title, we're changing the pay, we're changing the justification behind the position. We're changing from classified to unclassified. In my opinion, this should have basically got withdrawn and reintroduced. I understand the need, which is why I'm going to vote in favor of it, but we have to do better. with informing the public instead of changing. I mean, like I said, when it's all yellow like this, there's very little that is from the original document. That's all I'm going to say. I know this is part of the problem why we need a director of communication is for this reason, where we don't have these changes and stuff like that to help with y'all with the bandwidth. So I'm going to vote in favor of it just because I agree with the position that we need it, but that's just my opinion. I yield.
Commissioner Newsom.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Who will this individual report to?
To myself.
Thank you.
Board members, anyone else? Machine is open. And the ordinance is approved unanimously, 8 and 1 absent, Commissioner Konovich. Next.
6D is deferred. 6E, a resolution authorizing Charles Tilson, Executive Director of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, to enter into a per task order number 1 agreement for container terminal permitting and name change with United States Army Corps of Engineers from LA 23 to Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District with Lanier and Associates on an as-needed per task order basis as directed by Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District Executive Director and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Gui.
I'll offer S for a second. Seconded by Commissioner Shields. I could explain this, but I might get in trouble, so I'm going to ask the port staff to give me your thoughts on it.
Thank you. Yes, I mean, we're just really positioning ourselves to be prepared to purchase the land for the container terminal, as well as having the right engineering resource in place to expedite whatever the permitting process may look like. And there are 3 different approaches that we could take, and we're evaluating all 3. And this is just preparing for that next step. Obviously, before we would execute this, we're requesting approval to do it, but before we would execute it, we would bring the SP amendment to the table and make sure that that's approved first. That's really our next step for the container terminal.
And I appreciate that because, as we have discussed ad nauseum, that there's a process.
Yes.
And even though we have the authorization to move forward on some of these contracts, we have to have them in the right order.
That's right.
Otherwise, we're putting the cart before the horse. And I appreciate that approach that you take. Any comments from the audience?
Nico Tesfich, resident 724 Oak Tree Road, Belle Chase, Louisiana. I had several questions about the port, mainly about the timeline, the container port, to be specific. Like, do you have any kind of suggested timeline, a proposed timeline, or a best guess estimate of when this container port would be open and operational? And also, if you know it, how does that compare with the Port of New Orleans terminal that's going up in St. Bernard right now? Like, do they have a timeline? How does the timeline for us compare with theirs? If you have that information, can we beat them? Can we be the first runner on the ground? And that's it, just some questions of information. Thank you.
Yeah. I think that our efforts, Charles, are to get our ducks in a row to see if the container port in Plaquemines is feasible. Of course, we're moving forward to do it, and we don't have a crystal ball. As far as a timeline, it depends on how these action items take place and whether we're successful or not. And I know there's a comment about the Port of New Orleans. We're really not in competition. They have their thing, we have our thing, and we'll just let the chips fall as they may. Any other public comments? Comments from the board? Machine is open. And the resolution is approved, 8-0, with Commissioner Konovich being absent. Pretty good.
F, G, H are withdrawn. 7, new business. 7A, introduction of resolutions wherein suspension is being sought. There are none. And 8, approval of the May 11, 2023 regular meeting minutes.
I'll move on the minutes. Second by Commissioner LaFrance. Machine is open. And the minutes are approved, 8-0 with Commissioner Konovich absent. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn by Commissioner Schultz, seconded by Commissioner Newsom. The machine is open for adjournment. And the adjournment takes place at 3:52.